Fast forward 6 months and he quits his job. What is the easiest way to make money on the side legally? Donate plasma. Especially right now. New donors in my area are getting $100 to $175. Uber Eats or DoorDash. For me, I prefer Uber Eats. Last time I donated I got $600. Granted, this was in July of 2020, I was COVID positive, and they paid significantly more for that. They paid more because COVID positive plasma was used to make the vaccine. Still though, all I got from COVID was $600. Although it's not really donation. It's more like selling. Somebody replied, as a former blood center employee, this really annoys me. Blood centers don't pay for blood or plans because those donations actually go into other people for medical procedures. The FDA bans financial compensation for organ, tissue, and blood components. Plasma centers that pay for it send the blood to pharmaceutical companies who use the blood to make drugs that they then spend billions to market and charge customers an arm and a leg for. You aren't donating, you are a wholesale blood supplier for $1 billion corporation. But that's not as feel good, so they call it a donation. I do a lot of 3D printing and inventing for people. For example, someone will get the Hasbro HageLab Mandalorian Razor Crest and be like, I wish this hole was cut open for action figures to see out in the escape pod. Then someone will scan it, send it to me, and I will hollow out the window, print a window, and create an add-on for the escape pod. As long as it's an artist rendition and fan art, you can probably get around most of the trademark laws. I also 3D printed teleprompter supports for Major League Baseball's internet division. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun and I made some good money. The only downside is that I have to be home to do it. I am an electrician and generally handy. I have a truck, and I work off the TaskRabbit app. It has really helped fill the gaps in between paychecks. I work at a thrift store and my shift starts at opening time. When I pull in, there's a massive line at the entrance every single morning. For the longest time I had no idea why, but everyone I tell this to speculates that it's because people buy things at the store, everything is ridiculously cheap. And when I say cheap, I mean I tagged a vase that was originally $150 for $8. I've also tagged some video games for insanely cheap prices, usually priced around $2, and sell them online for a much, much higher price. Somebody replied, I used to work for Goodwill as well. I worked for minimum wage and had to do back-breaking labor, moving furniture and other stuff. I ended up being the main pricer of our products. Everyone loved me because I made everything so cheap. They sent us entire trucks full of wares that we had to count. I threw out dirty, gross stuff. Everything else? Cups were 25 cents. Plates were 50 cents. Figurines were $1. I was their highest performer in the state and they couldn't understand why our sales increased. People are poor. We got this stuff for free. I was not going to put $5 on an old, crusty plate. I would trash that shit and move on. I will say, I found so many cool things. I put everything I wanted in a bag, taped it up real good, put $5 on it and placed it at the bottom of a cart. I pushed the cart out and clocked out. I instantly went to the cart to get my bag. I once bought like 5 new in-box Dragon Ball Z figures. Last I checked, they were worth like $150 a piece. The best thing was toys. I brought my son home brand new, light-up talking Iron Man, Buzz Lightyear, etc. Almost every day I brought home a sweet toy I put for 25 cents. Because why the hell not? It was my bonus, because I couldn't afford to buy him those toys with $7.25 an hour. Being an extra in a TV show or film is not very demanding and you can get paid a couple $100 for it. Somebody replied, the opposite happened to me. I was in my mid-60s when I was walking around a shopping mall in Bangkok, Thailand. A woman approached me and said they were making a commercial and that the older, Western man who was supposed to fill a role hadn't shown up and would I do it. I was sure it was some sort of scam, but I followed along and sure enough, found myself in a commercial for a local mobile service provider. Got paid about $250. Over the next 10 years. I appeared in over 75 commercials, a bunch of TV shows and several movies. Probably made about $50,000 in that time. Quite an unexpected turn late in life. I heard that the furry community pays artists pretty well. If you're good at art, it might be worth looking into. Speaking of art-related things, virtual streamers are kinda big right now, so assets like Live 2D models and backgrounds sell for quite a lot. Somebody replied, the furry community pays artists pretty well, even if you're not that good. The furry community is super weird, and well-paid furries tend to just support up-and-coming furry creators in hopes of having their earlier works and supporting their community. But they can get super dark and sketchy very fast. I have family that are part of their communities and it can get ugly. Several artists get trapped doing furry art, and if they deviate they can get mass hate from the community. Uber. It's not a great full-time job, but it's a good way to make extra money part-time. I just worked mornings Monday to Friday from 6 AM to 9:30 AM. There are no drunks and no one wants to talk. Everyone just wants to get to work or the airport. I hadn't even considered that rush hour is the ideal time to Uber. My way is an easy way to get rid of all the negative interactions that keep people away from doing it. Right now I am in a paid medical study. I am receiving $10,000 for 3 weeks of my time. You take drugs that are going through the whole approval process. If the drug gets this far, it is generally known to be safe already. They are testing for how long it lasts in your system with various dosage amounts, fasted versus unfasted, etc. Somebody replied, I did a couple of drug trials a few years back. Just injections and blood tests, no overnights or admissions. I got a few $1,000s, and rid of chronic hepatitis B. No longer having to take antivirals every day made the hassle worth it. Unfortunately, I was the only one on my trial where that outcome occurred. I'm an outlier. I dog sit at least once a month. If you're good with dogs, it's an easy gig. Plus, the last time I dog sat was closer to the ski hill, so I rode a few hours every day. I've never worked with Rover on this side of the coin, but it might be worth looking into. All I have to do is mention that I dog sit and people are asking for my number. Just be respectful to the dogs, people, be good to the dogs, and word spreads and more work opens up. Babysitting, I kid you not, if you watch people's kids you can make easy money. I watched 2 8-year-olds a couple times a week and it was great. I cooked a meal, hung out with some good kids, helped with homework, put them to bed, and did my own thing or cleaned until the parents got home. I made $20 to $25 an hour. Less if it's just one kid. My friend in college noticed a lot of open babysitting jobs and he needed cash badly after losing his part-time job. Hardly anybody chose to interview him, and the ones that did never went anywhere. He put it down to being a man trying to watch kids. He was your average dude, definitely not suspicious. He had 3 much younger sisters he took care of growing up, so he wasn't inexperienced in general. So he started acting gay. Even put stuff on his resume too, and I quote, gay it up a bit. Nothing obvious, just stereotypically enough to make someone's mind go there. He was hired within the week. Take that as you see fit, I'm just relaying the story. I used to be more into tabletop gaming and made dice bags and card cases out of wood and leather, which I sold through the local game store. I've also done a lot of handyman work over the years, everything from building a deck to mounting a TV to the wall to painting ceilings. There's always a demand for random tasks. If you have any writing talent at all, you can get commissions from people in weird niche fandoms to write pretty mediocre stuff for a fat paycheck. For example, I know this guy who has been paid, on multiple occasions, $70 a pop for poorly formatted, more or less amateur short stories, under 5 pages, about furries and Pokemon or whatever. Seriously, these people will gladly pay a lot of money for literally any quality of writing as long as it indulges their interests. Word of advice, use a damn alt account for everything if you don't care about starting your rep from scratch. That will spare yourself from weird people who keep messaging you or try to force you into doing more. Somebody replied, I was given an $80 tip, on top of the $20 base fee, so a total of $100, to write an 8,000-word fan fiction about a girl and an anime boy falling in love. It takes me about an hour to write 4,000 words if I go super fast. I've also made $600 off of a 4,000-word fan fiction, through a more collaborative collection of art and stories. I will say, though, that you need an existing portfolio of work that proves that you can write the correct characterization, etc. And if you're a slow writer, it probably won't be much money per hour. I've also gotten maybe 5 commissions throughout the past 2 years, most of them only paying $5 minus $20. The number of people interested in having you write about their original characters is very few, but if you want to write fan fiction for money, there's some legal gray area around that. I'd say art is more lucrative than writing when it comes to furry commissions. I'm a janitor and don't make much money, but I also paint for a hobby. Sometimes people buy what I paint and it really helps me out. It's what makes it possible to treat my kids to nice things like a takeaway pizza once a month. About 10 years ago, I found that there were a lot of local businesses who thought they couldn't afford a professional website. The companies that do this kind of work charge thousands of dollars, which is way too much for small businesses. I use one of the self-publishing services, GoDaddy, to build functional, good-looking websites for businesses such as mobile car detailers, home cleaning services, religious groups, and so on. I have a decent desktop computer and high-speed internet connection, so publishing isn't hard to do. I'm legitimate, with an LLC, and I pay taxes on everything. It's just easier that way in the long run, and it provides potential customers with some assurance that I'm not just going to take their money and run. I keep it low-key, my charges are ridiculously low, and I don't ask for contracts or long-term commitments. It's a good service at a low price that I can do from home in my pajamas. Easy money. Somebody replied, something you may or may not already know is that you can do very well on spec projects. What I mean is that you can find your clients by targeting an industry. For example, lawyers. Find lawyers who have no websites or ugly useless sites and then build one for them and then contact them showing them what you've already done. Offer to sell it to them along with basic SEO services. You will be surprised just how well this can work out. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it's the coolest. You can feed crows and when they bring you cash, buy them better bread so they learn that you want cash. If you have the space and the means of transport, get free or cheap furniture on sites like Craigslist or Marketplace. Once you have it, just refinish or fix and resell. I did this through college on top of having a part-time job, so it wasn't the most consistent based on how much free time I had, but on good months I could make a couple $1,000 with not all that much work. Somebody replied, when I sold, I only used Craigslist. This was back in the 2010 to 2015 range, so there weren't a ton of other options just yet. I priced most things so they'd sell quickly. Plus, I only picked up items I knew were nice enough and were more in demand. Dresses and tables will never not be needed by someone somewhere, but larger, more specialized pieces I'd pass on. So, using your example, a TV hutch that can only fit up to a certain size TV would not be worth the effort in my opinion. I personally preferred that things kept moving rather than just sitting on them. So, if I could get a free dresser, put a couple hours work into it, then sell it for anywhere from $100 to $200 depending on size, I'd call it good enough. No sense getting greedy with it. Ask everyone you see for a penny or a dollar. In 1987 a guy named Mike Hayes asked everyone he could for a penny to pay for college. He collected 2.3 million pennies. Paid for his education. Somebody replied, while this is meant to be a feel-good story, I did the math on it, and that is just $23,000, not even accounting for inflation. That's not nearly enough to pay for college these days. My little brother goes live on TikTok and plays Fortnite. He literally just points his front camera at the TV as he plays. The people who watch him send gifts for him to do whatever they ask of him, make his character do a certain dance move, say something funny, or even turn off his console in the middle of the match. Those gifts translate into real money on a secure payment app like PayPal. He made about $150 in one day last week. I don't understand it, but he's putting the money in his savings account, so I'm proud of him either way. Somebody replied, there are some stupid things on TikTok making people money. I've seen some dude with a setup like I'll say pumpkin 10,000 times. If you send me X gift, I'll subtract from my amount I've said. If you send me Y gift, I'll now say it 10,500 times. House sitting. No, seriously, people will pay you to stay in their house while they're on vacation, even if they don't have any pets to take care of. One of my past girlfriends did this during college. There was a rich part of town, and she would babysit their home for 6 months of the year during winter while they were overseas. They had cameras and stuff in there to remotely check up, but they wanted someone to come and make it seem like someone was home so nobody got any ideas. She basically just hung out in this 6-bedroom, 8-bathroom house with a pool, gym or theater room. She was paid $50 a day. They did this for years. It basically paid for her college, and once she graduated it was paying for her rent until the family sold off and moved overseas. She actually stayed in touch with them last I heard. One girl at my high school started selling food and she was really good with money, so she started paying people to sell during other lunches. Eventually she became a monopoly because she was the only person that sold warm chicken sandwiches. She said she made a lot of money. A couple of years ago, my cousin, who is a wedding planner for 3 different local venues, asked if I was interested in bartending some weddings. I did some training and took an online course for a certificate. For the past 3 summers, I've made a lot of money bartending Friday and Saturday night weddings. I don't drink at all and it blows my mind how much money people spend drinking and tipping bartenders. I usually just pour whatever beer and wine is hosted, and at most someone asks for an old-fashioned. I'll make $300 minus $500 in cash tips on Friday and Saturday nights during the summer. It's like printing money. My buddy tried scuba diving and thought it was a really cool hobby. So he spent like $3K on equipment for his weekend hobby. He started selling his finds online. Fast forward 6 months and he quits his job because scuba diving every other week and selling shark teeth he finds on eBay and to bulk buyer companies was making him more than his job as an EE. Last year he made over $100,000 doing this. Apply for game shows. The worst that will happen is you don't get on. My girlfriend signed up for one on a whim and, after a few rounds of interviews, got paid £300 a day just to sit around the studio as a fallback contestant in case someone that was actually meant to be on the show came down with COVID or something. She ended up going in for 4 different days over several months. It was boring, but free meals and £300 a pop wasn't bad. Had someone actually dropped out of the show, she could have competed and won up to £500,000. What did you think of these side gigs? Subscribe to the channel to get a 6-figure income to sit at home all day. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas you want to share, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.